Yeah, we do a lot of work with RobCAD, and we're doing a lot of work with converting RobCAD or supporting RobCAD with process simulator robotics. So we were rather keen when Robot Expert came along to try and broaden our customer base, because we are primarily engaged with automotive supply and line building who are doing body and white activity. So we found a customer, or a customer found us, that's in the aerospace industry, and this was a great opportunity for us. It was a global business, a company called Hampson Aerospace. They had a number of issues that they needed to address, and they needed to address them quite quickly. But their marketplace, or the products that they worked on, are things called empennages, which is the tailplane of an aircraft. And they had a particular contract with Honda Aircraft. And they needed a very, very particular delivery capability. So they were, when they engaged with us, they were way behind on delivery. And they had a dilemma, which I will put through a little bit further. They had been manufacturing these, basically their leading edges of the tailplane. They'd been manufacturing them using a 6-axis machine tool. And the process itself was not fast enough to cope with their production requirements. So they also had 2 ABB robots literally sitting up the corner in the factory that they had not used for several years. In the past, these robots had been programmed by people using teach pendants. So in order to program the robot, they had to engage with a third-party organization at a very high daily rate cost for someone to come in and program parts using the teach pendant. Oh, raising a hand. Can I do that, Jean-Louis? Do I just to approve? Okay, is everybody still hearing me?
Yeah, we can hear you, John. You can go on.
Yeah, okay. One of the issues I had with that is the cost of bringing a third-party person in every time they wanted to edit or recreate a program to teach the robot was very, very expensive. The other area they had was they had CAM expertise, and they used CATIA. They used CATIA CAM, and to them it seemed fairly obvious to move to Delmia Robotics. Unfortunately, the people who are responsible for the CAM and the 6-axis machine did not have an understanding of the use of a robot cell. And although they fundamentally thought it would be the same as programming a 6-axis CAM tool, they very quickly began to realize that it's not, and understanding the capability of a robot is not the same as understanding the capability of a 6-axis machine tool. So fortunately, in-house, we had a technical engineer who was a robot expert. And the way we won this deal particularly was to almost do the job for them. We putting an awful lot of pre-sales effort in providing them with a service of helping them understand the capability of the robot, helping them understand the tooling that they required, and then differentiating between the capability of the axes of the robot and the axes of a 6-axis machine tool. So it gave them the ability to actually achieve the production rates they required to meet their order targets. So,
can you hear me, John?
I can, yes. Ran, yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Thank God I'm back in. Look, there is a problem with your voice quality. I'm getting feedback here. So, they hear you, but not too well. One thing that you can do is maybe move away the microphone a bit from your mouth and speak louder, and maybe speak with with short sentences. Try to shorten the text as much as you can, even though it's very interesting. Other than that's what we can do. Yesterday it worked well.
Ran, does this seem clearer?
Shimon, excuse me?
Is this clearer, the way I'm speaking now?
I'm not sure, but if you can speak louder, that will help. But go on. I mean, there's nothing we can do at this point. Go on.
I will speak louder. Okay. if we look at the keys to our success, one of the interesting things was that they had CATIA software, and they had CATIA models from their client, which was Honda. Right. The ability to import CATIA data straight into Robot Expert was very key in this particular application. They did not want the overhead of having to edit geometry. They did not want the overhead of having to utilize a CATIA workstation to do programming when the cost of a design engineer on a CATIA workstation was higher than the cost of programming the machine tool itself. So we were able to explain to them the workflow and the logic of using a robot cell in order to satisfy their need for production. So we did, because this was the very first order of this nature, we did put a disproportional amount of pre-sales effort into this account, but the solution was deployed, they were trained, and it was in production within 2 months. The downside, unfortunately, is that as a company, they were heavily in debt, which we weren't aware of. We were very pleased that we got the system deployed and we did get paid, but 6 months into the project, the company went into receivership and was sold, and the robots and the license were not reused by the company that bought them. So it is a great story, but with a sad ending, I'm afraid. So, but one of the things that we learned from it is that to make Robot Extract work, we need a very fast response in order to demonstrate and work closely with the client before the client starts moving away and looking at the lower cost options from like Robot Studio and the FANUC product, Robot Guide, and the KUKA product. You need to be, or we found we need to be there very quickly, demonstrating our willingness to help and also the functionality of the product. The product is highly functional, but for many clients, the benefit of the functionality is lost because they have possibly a relatively simple task. So we have found that our competition appears to be the robot manufacturer's software, not necessarily Delmia. It's more the low-end software, the low-end software, and the low-end robot manufacturer software that is several $1,000s. And in the last year, I must admit, we have not had the success that we would have liked. We've had a number of engagements, but have lost those engagements to a lower cost product, which has been the robot manufacturers. Again, I will state, like Robot.
So that's an important
Yes.
point, John, that actually you've read with me when we were prepared for this. Probably the lessons out of that, and I discussed it with you, is you know, a bit of qualification. There needs to be a justification for the customer to go, you know, at the end of the day, it's more expensive to buy the software separately, and the justification can be multiple robots. The justification can be more complicated operations. In some cases, the right decision is not to engage. So that's part of the...
Yeah, but Ron, let me just, John, sorry. Let me, can I comment shortly on this? This is Alex. To add to what Ron said, if you recall in the RICO case that I just discussed a few minutes ago, we were dealing with the competition, which was FANUC RoboGuide, and the main input from RICO was that they dealt with significant issues with loading sufficient data scope into FANUC RoboGuide because of the fact that it's based on IGES. The amount of data you can load into the software is quite limited. So they really like the fact about Robot Expert that the scope of data that you can load into the software is much higher, which helped them a lot to build the entire scope of the work cell and to validate all scenarios. In FANUC RoboGuide, they were very limited in this sense, and as soon as they tried to load the largest data scopes, the software would simply crash. I mean the Fanuc software. So this is another point to consider. Yeah.
That little bit of information is very valuable for me. We are at the moment working on some with a client of ours called Comau, and they have a major job for Jaguar Land Rover, and this is a Fanuc cell for gluing and assembly. And at the moment, I believe
John, your voice again is lower.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm trying to keep
But in
the
any
mic
case,
in the
we are
same
a bit
place.
running out of time, so I would recommend if you can summarize this slide in 2 sentences, and we can move to the next case.
Two sentences then. It requires a lot of technical support, the same level of support that you would have to give to a very, very high-end product, but the competition seems to be the lower-end, fast-to-sale product. I feel we're a little bit trapped into delivering disproportional pre-sales support, almost the same level of support we would give to a RobCAD inquiry and a process simulator robotics inquiry. So I don't yet know how to, value, put the sales value in that the product deserves. I need some help. So thanks very much, everyone, for listening. I'd love to hear your ideas.
Thank you very much, John. I think it was a little challenging technically, but we will go through the recording maybe and summarize some of it. And if you can upload the material to the public community later, or not to the public, we will share it internally, and people can read through it. I want to move to the next